and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing with you my favorite plants of the month of January. My first favorites video of 2024. Incredible. This month has simultaneously gone by really quickly and really slowly, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but the year I feel like is just gonna zoom by. But I didn't want it to zoom by too fast because I want to share with you some of the best things that are going on in my collection at the minute and just like be happy about some stuff. So first off, I'm gonna talk about this one because it was the first main one of this year. This is my Euphorbia Ghost. Wishlist plant achieved. A very kind person saw that it was on my wish list and went ahead and sent it to me. And actually the other one, the second one I want to talk about as well, is this, my little variegated Thanksgiving cactus. They sent me both of these plants and some other bits and bobs, and I feel so incredibly lucky to be part of such a kind, generous community. And I always try and pay that forward if the person doesn't want anything themselves. And when I am getting rid of plants, I try and make things super affordable and or free as much as I possibly can to kind of make up for the fact that so many of you are so kind and generous and are just willing to give me the craziest cuttings of plants. Like this one, it wasn't even a cutting, it was fully rooted, which is crazy. And I've just put it in my cactus cabinet for now, and I'm hoping it does well. I haven't noticed any new growth on it yet, but I'm assuming it's gonna take a minute considering it's in a new environment and it's getting sorted down inside of the pot, which I think I'd rather it do anyway. I want it to get sorted before it decides to try and grow more. So yeah, I can't believe I have this plant and it's so big, and the milkiness of that coloring is so surreal. This top bit is extremely white but super sectoral in its whiteness. I love these little spots of dark it's got in there. And these little tiny bits of growth are so cute. I am astounded still that this is in my care and that I get to grow this plant. And I cannot wait to see how it does, and I hope that I can keep it happy. Same with the little variegated Thanksgiving cactus. So it did have 3 cuttings originally, but unfortunately one of them went rotty. So far, these two, they've firmed up really nicely. They were a little bit floppy right after I got it because they'd been in the post and they'd not been potted up. And so I was a bit worried that they might not come back, but I think they pretty much have. I'm not gonna pull them out because I'm scared. But I just think that they are the coolest things, and if I can get them to continue growing, that would be great. Even this new growth, I don't know, I'll have to look back at the picture right when I got it, but it feels like it's bigger already. So I'm hoping that that is the case, and I'm hoping that I can get this one to grow really well because it is so cool. And I just can't believe that I have miraculously ticked off 2 plants on my wish list within days of me getting back from holiday, which I go back on the 5th of January. How? Oh, I don't get it, but I love it, and I am so incredibly appreciative. Yeah, it is phenomenal, and I feel like it makes my plant ban a little bit easier when people send me these plants because I don't need to, obviously I'm not buying plants, but I still get the joy of plant mail. I know that's bad. I shouldn't encourage myself like that, but alas, it's fine. I'm just beyond excited about two wish list plants right off the bat. 3 actually. I didn't even think about that one. Got a Wilbur Graves as well from this person. So single-handedly ticking off like most of my wish list in January. But yeah, I'm just so incredibly pleased with those. The next one I want to talk about is this one purely because it's like in shot, and so I don't want to leave it for too long. But this is my Black Pagoda lipstick plant, and I have been loving this one so much because it has been flowering like crazy. Basically since December time, it has constantly had blooms coming out, and they're these like really weird, almost alien-y looking flowers, and it's just constant. Like one or two will drop off and then more just keep popping out, and I don't think they're planning on stopping anytime soon. Also, the backs of these leaves are stunning. That's kind of my favorite bit of this plant, and so I quite love having it in the window because I have it in the window, pretend the back wall is the window, facing the sun, so I get to enjoy all these beautiful purple backs of the leaves and still the flowers while the plant is getting the amount of light that it wants. It's loving being so close to a window, and I mean, this pot, it's amazing. It's one of my favorite pots for sure. But yeah, I've been really loving watching these flowers grow, and I don't know, I just find them so weird and different. And I think that's what I like about houseplant flowers as opposed to like cut flowers. They are a very different beast, and I feel like they tend to be like more weird and wonderful than classic and elegant and pretty. So it just adds a bit more fun, I think, into a houseplant collection when you can have a plant that occasionally or constantly blooms like that. This next one is another smaller one. It is my Hoya Crinkle 8. And I know it's not super duper crinkly, but I honestly don't mind it that much. I am just glad that it is growing at all, because for the longest time, this one did nothing. Not a single thing, not a single leaf grew. I swear, it had maybe 2 or 3 leaves total for a while. And I was almost ready to give up on it, but I'm pretty sure that it wasn't growing because it had flat mites. And it was the same for my Hoya Grey Ghost, which I did end up throwing away because I was just like, I probably should have kept it, really, because if I had treated it for the flat mites it had, it might have actually started growing just like this one has. But since I've done the sulfur treatment, it has just been popping out new growth left and right, and like it's pretty decent sized growth as well, considering it's such a small plant. I thought that it might put out smaller growth for a little bit because it kind of had to start fresh, but it hasn't at all. It has just been fairly constant since the treatment, which is amazing. I'm really glad that it has succeeded. And look, I've even got like more new growth coming in at the top there, assuming I don't ever break that off, which I might accidentally. But this one's living in my cabinet. It's pretty much lived in the cabinet the entire time I've had it, pretty high up close to the grow light, and like I said, done nothing until basically the last couple months when it's finally started properly doing something. So yeah, I'm very fond of this one, and I'm really enjoying watching it grow. And I just can't wait to see how it does, because eventually I might be able to grow like a huge big crinkle 8 plant. That would be super freaking cool. That'd be awesome. Another plant that has kind of been revived and that I'm very excited about is my Alocasia Barankifolia Pink Passion. It has just put out the most stunning leaf. So I had cut this one back to nothing because it had spider mites on it, and I was just like, I cannot deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with like a spider mite infested plant. I'm just tired of it. And so I chopped it back to nothing because alocasias can restart if you chop them back and you like leave this bit of the stem, tuber, corm thing, they should be absolutely fine. And this one is just proof of that, and it's put out quite a large leaf. I was again aware that it might possibly put out something a little bit smaller, seeing as it was starting over, but it has just been doing its darndest, putting out some actual decent sized growth on it. Hopefully I can get this one to grow more leaves. I think since I got it in August of 2022 time, it's kind of been in the 1-2 leaf club, very much so cycling the leaves, and so I haven't been able to grow it full. So I'm still hoping that I can get it back to that, and hopefully now that it is, as far as I can see, pest free, we can get it to do that. But I might need to move it into a different location. I might triple, quadruple check that it is pest free and maybe move it into my Millsbow cabinet, because I do have room in there now, because I have been doing all of that adjusting of plants and taking things out of there. I feel like I've actually got space to put things in, and so maybe that one would benefit from a bit more of a cabinet situation where it can get better humidity, probably more warmth, and probably about the same amount of light. But yeah, I think humidity is a big one for those, and if I can get it to stop cycling, that would be brilliant. This next one is from my last video, and it is a favorite of mine because, one, I think it looks really, really good. I think it turned out quite nicely. This is my new mixed pot of scindapsus. If you haven't watched me potting all of these up together, I highly recommend you go and see how freaking nervy I was putting this together. I think I am still a little bit nervous about it, but I am mostly just excited that I have done it and proud of myself for getting past those nerves and like sticking with it and just going for it, because I think once this one settles in, it is going to be an absolutely gorgeous thing. I mean, it already is a hugely gorgeous thing. It's a pot full of scindapsus, which are innately beautiful. So, I mean, unless this starts like drying up and going crispy, I don't think I have anything to worry about here, and I'm hoping that these all adjust well and live well in this pot all together. But I am really, really proud of this and happy with this. I'll put a picture up of all of the different types labeled in here, because there's actually 8 different types of scindapsus in this pot, and I feel like I really like the mix, and it's given me confidence to do this with more plants going forward. And so I can do this, and I probably will with some more plants, probably still sticking within the same genus like this pot, but it's giving me the confidence to do that, and I think I can. But yeah, I'm really proud of this and happy that it is doing so well. This next one, y'all probably have not really seen, because I've only just taken it out of the prop box. So this here is an Anthurium SP Limon. And I actually got this in a swap with Claire months and months and months and months ago, because she had chopped up her old plant and she had cuttings. And so she swapped them with me, and since then, I think, oh god, it must have been May time. Since May, this plant had been sitting inside of a prop box, rooting itself up, and I have finally decided to put it into a pot, into some soil, onto a pole, in hopes that I can get it to grow well. So this Anthurium is actually a climbing Anthurium, which is kind of strange and not something that I'm used to. I'm sure that you can get other Anthuriums to climb. I'm just not as in with that. Like, I'm not as aware of it as I have been with other plants climbing. So I've never actually tried an Anthurium on a moss pole before, but I'm hoping that this one loves it and I can get it to grow some decent sized leaves. Because the leaves on this plant, they're like kind of bubbly, ribbed almost, and it's beautiful silver blue-green color. So yeah, I'm just really fascinated with this plant, and so glad that I've finally gotten it to be what I consider a plant, as opposed to like a cutting in a random box that I haven't looked at in like 6 months, which is something that I tend to do far more often than I would like to admit. So yeah, I'm glad to like actually have this as part of my collection and on display. It's actually living in my Milsbo as well, which I think is the perfect spot for it because it's gonna like the humidity, I'm pretty sure. And I am trying to be much more on top of watering the moss poles that I have in my Milsbo. I kind of let that get away from myself last year, and so this year I am trying my darndest to get them watered, because like I've got a Splendid in there and a Monstera Dubia in there and that in there, and I want them to grow big and strong, and they're not going to do that if I don't water the moss poles. So I'm trying to be much more on top of that, as on top of it as I am with the moss poles in this whole area here. So very excited about that one. Next, we have a new leaf, the best new leaf, on my Anthurium pallidiflorum. So, this is the new leaf here. And you might say, okay, yeah, it's not that big compared to the rest of the plant, but I have two distinct plants within this pot. The one at the front is the really big one, and then the one at the back is much smaller, where the leaves are itty bitty. This one's probably about to come off, but itty bitty little leaves. This new leaf has come from the one on the back, and it is easily twice as big as the previous ones. Like, look at that. This leaf compared to that leaf. And it's still even hardening off, so it still could get even bigger. So I cannot believe how phenomenally this plant grows. If you were looking into Anthuriums and you don't know what to try, and you might not be into the sort of big round velvety leaves, I highly recommend trying a pallidiflorum if you can possibly get your hands on one. I know they're not the cheapest of them, but I think they're definitely going to be going down in price in this year. I've already noticed them being much more accessible and being able to find them a little bit more online, so that is great. But yeah, I highly recommend if you do get a chance to get an Anthurium pallidiflorum. I've been loving it, and it's not even in any sort of special conditions. It's not in my cabinet, it's just on a shelf in my bedroom. It doesn't get any grow light. It's actually the coldest room in our flat. It's not cold, but like, it's probably like 17, 18 degrees in there most of the time, at least in the winter. Even with the heat on, it doesn't get that warm. So it's in like maybe not less than ideal conditions, but like just below ideal conditions, and it's still doing phenomenally. So, and it just looks so cool. I'm so glad that I have this plant. I love it so much. And then last, but definitely not least, because this is the biggest freaking plant and I don't know how exactly I'm going to show this to you. Okay, so we're just gonna be here for a second. But my bird of paradise is putting out the biggest new leaf at the minute. And it actually is still unfurling, which is exciting. But it was all wrapped up in itself until yesterday. I was sitting on the couch reading my book and I was like, it sounds like leaves are falling, but like, I don't really have any leaves that can fall throughout my flat. And I kept like looking around like, what is that noise? And then we'd go back to reading and then it would happen again. I'd be like, what is that? And eventually I realized when I looked over at this plant that it was unsticking itself and starting to unfurl, which is so incredibly exciting. It is quite a large leaf. I don't know if I'm going to be able to adequately show you because I'm sitting in a chair, but it's got from the bottom to the top of that, plus the point where it has broken off a little bit. It is completely normal for like bird of paradise leaves to split like this. It is not something to worry about. I think almost all of my leaves have these splits. The plant actually does that so they don't act as sails in the wind. And I think it's probably for the best. Even though I don't have wind going on in my flat, it's just part and parcel of the plant and really nothing to worry about. And I actually don't mind the way it looks that much either. So yeah, I'm just so excited to see what this leaf grows into, because I've noticed that bird of paradise leaves, once they come out, they keep getting bigger in my experience. And so I'm really excited to see how big this one ends up being. I have also noticed that bird of paradise actually grow the most for me in the winter time. I think it's like it's had days and days and hours of sun throughout the summer to like soak in the energy, and then it finally decides to put out the new leaves that it's been like storing up all this energy for months and months down the line, normally in the height of winter, which I think is a little bit of an odd situation, but maybe it's a survival thing. Has anybody else noticed that their bird of paradise does this? Because mine does. Literally every single leaf has come out pretty much during the winter months. So it's odd but true, and I mean, just a beautiful, like, look at the sheen on that leaf. So waxy. Yeah. Anyways, I'm like beyond excited for this one. I kind of forget that it pretty much only gives me new leaves in winter, and so I'm like waiting for it all summer when it's getting the good light. But it's time now. This is the season for these new leaves. So very, very excited about that. Oh. So that is it for my January favorites. I feel like my collection is doing pretty well, and plants are still putting out quite a lot of new growth even though it is the height of winter. They're doing so well, and I know I've got the artificial environment, which like definitely helps because it's got warmth and humidity and light and stuff when they wouldn't necessarily outside, so that does definitely help. But even then, I normally experience some amount of slowing of growth, but on these plants this month, I have definitely not experienced that at all, which is very exciting. So yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future. If I mentioned anything in this that you want to hear more on, let me know, and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to keep growing. I will see you in the next one. Bye!